Hello and welcome to Thehayteamtv. Right, I thought about doing something like this for ages, but this sort of gave me the opportunity. So in the last video, which was Friday, welcome to Sunday. This is going to be a Sunday special, all on sainfoin. Sainfoin is a seed that we basically planted very, very recently in the last 2 weeks. If you only just clicked on this. If you haven't yet done so, please hit the subscribe. That'd be most appreciated. Not every video is like this one. Usually it's a vlog of what we do on the farm. Now, I thought about doing this. I took a section out of the last video because I didn't quite do it justice because I was driving and I wasn't thinking sort of straight and clearly of discussing why we pick sainfoin and not something like alfalfa. Firstly, sainfoin comes up with a whole bunch of pros, which I personally felt that was better than most other things that I could find in the market. Like things like, well, I could talk about sainfoin first. So sainfoin is bloat resistant. It is even bloat resistant if you mix it with alfalfa, red clover, white clover, blah, blah, blah. It will counteract the other clovers and cattle will be fine on it grazing. Now, it will root, so like 2.5 meters, somewhere in the region of that, if soil conditions are right, which means it is hugely drought preventative and at the same time improves drainage. It can then also transport nutrients that deep in the ground back up to the plants that are up the top and itself. The way it grows, because it sort of grows outwards a lot wider than clovers do, it can basically block out sunlight. And I'm not going to go and say loads of stuff now because I'm learning as I go, but it should like block out sunlight to weeds and be weed preventative. So my thoughts are, like, if anyone's like on here going, oh, regenerate, like, okay, slightly regen ag, we're not organic, forget that. Trying to be min input, maximum output. That's what we're trying to do. As a plant to add to all the plants we already have, this plant has a whole bunch of beneficial factors which we would like to basically use to enhance our farm. Does that make sense? It's nitrogen fixing, so brings nitrogen out of the air, puts it in the ground, perfect. That will help everything grow around it. So it doesn't actually use all of that. They're dispersed to the plants around that plant. Okay, so another big thing. It's a natural wormer for livestock. Not that that actually matters to us because we don't overgraze it. Well, a couple of little test plots will get grazed because that's where I put them. And on top of that, what's the other thing? It is really good for insects, invertebrates, and especially honeybees. Good at also being frost damage preventative. It's okay in frost, but it's not brilliant in really serious prolonged cold. That's what I've read. Now, the reason I'm doing this video is because of all the information I've gone and found, I have literally struggled to find more than so much information. So I thought I would do this on anyone that is thinking about planting something like sainfoin or something different. This would be a bit of a vlog, how we do with it and how we work with it going forward and what we've done on planting measures and how we learn as we go. Okay, because it's a very old farm system style plant that hasn't been really used or utilized for years, that I feel that is coming back around. And I had a friend go to Groundswell last week, I think it was. It's not really something that floats my boat, but he said there was a lot of talk about sainfoin there and he'd not actually heard it being brought up until recently. So maybe here at Thehayteamtv HQ we're ahead of the game. Maybe. Now, my first thing that I want to do is I advocate basically right now none of you to buy sainfoin seeds because well, basically, if we plant any more, I don't want to be pushed out the market on the value of the seed going up. Everything I teach you is just for educational value. I don't actually want you to buy it. So now reasons for us growing it is next thing I'm going to get into. So the fact it is drought resistant, brilliant, because over the last 3 to 4 years we've been getting hotter summers. Not that that's going to systemically stay, but that seems to be the way everything is systematically going along at the moment. And we would like to be sort of prepared for such ongoing summers, if that makes sense. So we've put in now 14 acres because at the same time we've got to be able to market this on. It wouldn't be the same if we were just a general livestock farm and we were feeding it ourselves, because then we could probably plant more with less risk of not being able to flog it. But because we've got to sell it, we've got to, you know, get people to like it, test it out. It ends up becoming slightly a bit more of a long, further drawn out thing of like taking a year or two rather than just bang a load in. So that's what we've done. Now, reason for going for sainfoin, not alfalfa. Now, loads of people are like, oh, why haven't you put alfalfa in? Because alfalfa it's aggressive grower, yes. But I don't want to cut 7 times a year or 5 times a year. I don't see huge value in that. Okay, you can get a lot of bales, but that's a lot of bales over 7 cuts. I would rather be able to go out and do that sort of work within 2. Sainfoin, if you look at the dry matter readings, and I'm going to put up, so now as I'm talking, this is a listed piece from Cotswold Seeds, and you can see all the benefits, and I will leave a link down below for you to go and see this, which gives you all the benefits and what you can achieve with sainfoin. Now, if you put a full sainfoin stand in, the way I understand this is you can get around about 14 to 15 tons dry matter an acre. Now, if you put in Westerwold, which is an Italian ryegrass, which is a very, very aggressive ryegrass, which will last 2 years, you can get 7 to 8 tons dry matter per acre. Okay, so sainfoin you get double. If you mix that in with normal ley, you should be able to bump up. You're not going to get exact double, but you're going to be looking around, you know, somewhere between 10 and 12 tons of dry matter an acre, which would be absolutely perfect for the way I'm thinking. Which means that is what's achieved in the first cut, and then the second cut you might get a nice-ish second cut, which is perfect. That's all we want. I don't want to be chasing my arse after 7 cuts a season. I don't see any fun in that. I don't see any logic in that. Running costs these days aren't cheap. Every time you start a machine up, like this is a sort of discussion I would like to have with a bunch of dairy farmers. I do not understand the 6-7 cut system of cutting grass for silage, for better milk quality, for milk that goes into a tank, if that makes sense. I'm sure someone's going to come and tell me, or going to tell me all the different ideas and sciences, and I'll have told them that, you know, it's better for yogurt or cheese or something. But fundamentally, usually you see lorries go and pick up milk from one farm and then another farm, and if their milk is slightly different, it's just in the same tank, and that's just the way I see it. And it also don't help that there's a local dairy farm around us that sort of do a first cut and a second cut, and they take it just after the grass has gone to seed, and they seem to do it perfectly fine, and they do it themselves, and there's low cost, and it seems to be way more chilled out and relaxed than all this multi-cut system that's going on. But back to sainfoin. So also the maize thing, you know, maize is supposed to be good in dry weather. Sainfoin, in a second, I'm gonna sort of show what it's achieved so far with no water. Actually, I'll do that now. So here is test pot 1. I cut down here. So this is the beginning of a sainfoin plant. As you can see them, And where I put them is probably the worst attempt on placement possible, and I did it on purpose. This is where it starts coming up real thick, where obviously there's been a bunch of seeds. They have really kind of had to struggle to get themselves up out of this. Oh, wet dogs. They've been down a stream. So as you can see here, that's what they look like when they start coming up. When they first come up, which I'll take you to another little plot in a second and show you how they sort of come up. You know, the first leaves, and then they come up with a flag leaf. It's quite a change to watch. But here's plot one, which doesn't look bad at all, and especially of where they have been put. Because like if I pull back now, you can see, you know, that's just crap ground. So if they improve that ground, that's going to be awesome. Right, plot two is being walked over at the moment. So here you can see the difference between plot 1 and 2 is nothing to do with when cows like trying to hump over the top of me right now. Oi, pack it in. So this is plot 2. Plot 2 is a little bit drier than plot 1. So it was a case of seeing what it would be like if we did have really extreme dry weather, on how it would stand. Now it's only, I'd say, 30 meters from the other, but down here, up there's a spring, so it sort of stays, the ground stays moist up there. Down here it doesn't, it just goes really dry and arid. So I decided to put a little plot here, and other than them being slightly bitten off, which some of them have, and stamped on a little bit, they are pretty much still there. I don't know if you all can hear me right now, but how they come up, this is test plot 4. 3 is a different part of the farm. They come up with this little dark coloured little double leaf, and then they throw this really cool flag leaf. Right, that's the flag leaf as he opens the first time, then he folds out and like ends up with 3. I don't know if I've got 3s here yet. There. So then it splits into 3. You can see that one there. Okay. So that's something, if you are planting it, that's something to look out for. Another thing to be thinking about is the feed value of sainfoin is absolutely phenomenal. So if you look at Cotswold feeds, or seeds rather, not feeds, you look at Cotswold seeds, you can look up like and anywhere else, look up the protein and nutrient values of sainfoin, and you will be hugely surprised at what you can achieve with less work, which personally that's the way I'm going. 5 weeks ago now, which they aren't looking too bad, they're not huge, but those seeds, as you can see, are in a cattle track, real rutty crap ground, clayey and horrible. So the first thing on the whole drilling thing is I bought some seeds. I went and put some test plots in around the farm. I didn't do any soil tests because I was told that you should do soil tests first, and you know, alkaline soil that it prefers, and sainfoin's difficult to grow and there's no point doing it. I had people tell me that sainfoin can't be grown down here. Fine, brilliant. All the things I want to know, everyone telling me not, I'm going to go the other way and do the opposite. Perfect. So, proved it can grow. Winner. It's all up in leaf, as you can see. That was test plot 1 and 2 that you just saw. Not great deal, like 2 metre squared areas. That's it. But it grew. So, tick 1. Did another test plot. I hadn't had time to wander around the farm to show you test plot 3. Test plot 3 is pretty much the same as test plot 1 and 2. Just different area ground, but slightly bonier soil, knocks the clay. That was fine. So that's when we decided to go and bang a heap of seeds in. Now, in the next 2 weeks, I will give updates on how those seeds are doing, and they've been direct drilled. Now, we have had some moisture in the last 48 hours, quite a bit of moisture, that when I did some soil tests, as in, anyone must have done this, you get a pocket knife, just bang a hole in, take out a core, and you can see how deep moisture is sort of penetrating soil. Moisture penetrated about 5 mil. Now that's on hard capped ground. Best thing with direct drilling and slot seeding is because you've broken the ground with the disc and you've put a seed in, you have moisture can get in there easier. That makes sense. So fingers crossed, those seeds should kick off in the next, I'm going to say 2 weeks, as I said a minute ago, which is a win. Now, things that we're doing wrong here. We got told sainfoin doesn't like to be direct drilled into an existing lay. Okay, so we've done that wrong. We got told that it likes to be shallow drilled. Shallow drilled? No, slightly between shallow and deep. It's about 1 inch deep. Okay, got told not to put in too shallow because birds love it. It looks like this, if you give me a second. So I get one of these out. So they come in, if I take that out of the camera, can you see it? That is a seed. It is quite a big seed. Obviously you get some green ones, brown ones, just depends how dry they are. It's a, oh, I've dropped that one. Well, that will go somewhere else. Okay. So because the seeds are big, this actually made it really easy to drill. So we slowed the rate of the drill down. So we haven't put it in what would be a rate that you would plant ryegrass at. We put it in a very low rate. So you should averagely be looking at a plant somewhere between every 1 and 3 inches. I'm just going to roughly guess. Which means we've covered quite a large acreage on not a huge amount of seed, because it is quite a slightly expensive seed compared to other seeds. But I believe the benefits are there personally in the long term, and it will last 10 years. As the red clovers, white clovers, they usually last 2 to 3. So you're looking at a plant that's going to be around a while, not just 5 minutes. So it's then kind of a bit more worth it, isn't it? Other things on it. So I went in, we want a big cut and then a nice cut, not loads and loads of cuts. So that's a box ticked. It's going to help feed farm. That's a nice one. Its carbon fixing properties are pretty phenomenal, like better than a lot of other plants, which means then we are becoming close to a carbon neutral farm. Not that I'm going to be straight with this, not that I actually care too much about being carbon fixing, but it just does. Mobs out weeds, less spray, perfect. That's, again, all this, I'm just going to be straight with people, all this crap with regenerative and this and that, the fundamental comes down to one thing. People want to make money, people want to save money. So that's where I look at everything. If it mobs out weeds and that actually works, again, I'll let you know as I find out going forward, that means less spray. You just don't have to buy anything, okay? And that's sort of the things that I want to hear. Less input, more output. And it possibly might double our crops. Perfect, that's brilliant. If it manages to double our crops, win, win, win. Maximum output. So that is some of the reasons why. Now, drought resistant properties, brilliant, because in the last 3 to 4 years, I haven't seen maize do very well. I don't know what everyone else is seeing around their parts. in this little island that we call the UK, we do have different weather patterns. Down here in the south, we're being very dry at the moment. I know up in Birmingham and the Midlands, you guys seem to be having quite a lot of water. Around the rest of the world, don't know. I'm just not around all of there, so I don't know. I can't speak for all of you. But tell me what your weather conditions are wherever you are, and if you're interested in talking about sainfoin, I'm well up for it. If you grow sainfoin, love to chat to you. So back to it. It is an old crop that was used in the past to regenerate and help improve soil quality and land. So why not grow it? That's what I think. And the reason it lasts 10 years, that's perfect. Less drilling, if it works. So I'm going to be now on a discovery pathway of however this goes. And each time I've got something to update, I'm going to update all of you on how it goes, because we all need to be looking at different options that might help us out in the long term. Because, well, quite frankly, the rest of agriculture is trying to sort of stitch us up most of the time, to be honest. Well, that's what I think. So yeah, there's my sort of findings on sainfoin. There is a reasonable amount of stuff which is way more in depth than what I'm talking about on YouTube. A lot of it is put up by Cotswold Seeds, which is really interesting. That's where sainfoin really thrives, is up in the Cotswolds on that sort of chalky, limestoney sort of ground with shallow soils. Down here we're a bit clay, we are a little bit heavy soiled, but we're going to give it one hell of a go, because I feel that there are too many upsides, and there's not very many reasons not to use it. Other than that, I'm just pondering here a second. Other than that, I think that's all I got on it for this moment of time, until I see more to my eye. But I've ticked all the boxes by everyone telling me I can't. I've proved that I can. We've put a load in, and we as a farm are going to see if it benefits us or if it doesn't. Fingers crossed there's going to be a big win on this one, and hopefully you guys enjoy the journey of us on this sort of slightly new discovery. And as far as I'm aware, I've not known that this is being grown in the southwest. I might be wrong. If you have, please tell me. So if you haven't yet done so, please hit the subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. Like the video if you like this. If you like this sort of type of video, that if Adam and I will discuss stuff, anything, let me know, and we will discuss more things. So thank you very much for watching. If you want to find any more of us, you can find us on all the other social medias. You know enough of this by now. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.